So today on the Decluttering Club podcast, we're going to be digging into all things mindset and how you can go from victim to being your own hero. I'm going to be talking with my dear friend, Decluttering Coach Selena Jones, and we're going to be telling you all kinds of great stuff. So let's get to the show. You are listening to the Decluttering Club podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Mueller, and it's my mission to equip women to declutter their homes, their time, and their lives so that they have energy for what matters most. Okay, so we're talking about mindset today, specifically decluttering mindset, but just mindset in general, I think is a really important thing.
So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Coach Selena, and I am a coach with the Decluttering School, and I'm also a grief and trauma therapist. So mindset is it's a passion topic for me because it's foundational to so many things, to our relationships, to our friendships, to our work, and to our decluttering. So I'm thrilled to be here to have a more in-depth chat about it.
We have said this before, but we could say it again. It's not about the stuff. It is not about the stuff. It is about what the stuff means to us. What could be more meaningful than that treasured possession from that person that you have lost? That's all you have left. That is like next level. It's not just, your junk drawer. It's not that hard to dig into the junk drawer.
Except for maybe overwhelm, but there's tips and tricks to deal with overwhelm. Right?
And that's mindset too. Yeah, absolutely. What are some of your favorite things that you are saying to people? Let's go into some Selena-isms. Do you have some go-to phrases?
Yeah, I have one right now that I've been speaking on recently that I'm so passionate about, and that is be the hero of your own story. So I think it's so important because in just about everything that happens in our lives that is really hard and really difficult, and it feels paralyzing and it feels overwhelming, usually our go-to reaction is, I just want someone to save me. I just want someone to make it go away, to make everything okay again, and to make it easy. And I think we have to remember that on the other side of challenges comes growth. And it's the same thing with decluttering. So we can be so incredibly challenged by our space. We can want something or someone to come in and save us. But if we work through that process, the lessons that we learn about our stuff and about what's important to us and the things that we can get back, like a bit more time and energy for other relationships and hobbies and passions, that's the growth side of working through the challenges. I think it's vital.
I think we kind of all would love that. Some just come and fix it. Someone needs to come and make this all go away. But like you said, that we miss out when we do that. Like we actually rob ourselves of something better. I guess when we think about it that way, then it's like, oh, there's something waiting for me. I don't know what it is, but maybe there is something on the other side of that if I can figure this out. And I think that the truth, that's the flip side too. That no one's coming to save you. That's not great news. Nobody really likes to hear that. But I think at some level, we have to be the ones to say yes and figure things out. And doesn't mean we don't get help. That's not what this is about.
Yeah, we need help. Yeah, if you need help, you need to ask for it. And that's just another lesson in self-advocacy. You don't have to. So having challenges and working through challenges doesn't mean that you need to do it alone. You don't have to do it entirely by yourself. In fact, I think it's even better if you have friends or family or a village, whether that's in person or whether it's online, someone with good boundaries. You want people with good boundaries because you don't want people kind of marching in and taking over your space and making the decisions for you. That's taking away your empowerment. Right? That's a boundary issue. But to have people support you and to notice your wins and to celebrate that with you and to give you a fresh perspective when you feel lost or overwhelmed or sometimes trapped. A lot of people feel trapped by their stuff and they feel like, I can't make decisions. And so it's so great to ask for help. That is not a weakness. That's a strength.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And I love the idea of being the hero because I think sometimes we feel like a victim.
Right.
Why is this happening to me? Why is life so hard? Why does everything happen to me? If you think about your favorite movie with a hero, I don't know, Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
They had all kinds of junk happened to them, Frodo and Bilbo, and they're like, they are struggling through, but they're also the hero, right? And they're figuring it out. And that's just, it's so empowering. It's like, oh, okay, the hero, like that sounds good.
Yeah.
Better than being a victim anyway.
Yeah. And we have to remember that it's going to get messy. Like one of the things that is so frustrating about the decluttering process is when people are in the messy middle and they feel like they're not getting anything done. And they're like, no, I'm not making any progress. And I've got all this stuff all over the place. Yet they're not counting all the decisions that they've been making for themselves. They've been showing up for their space. There's things that they've let go of. So the messy middle is really uncomfortable. And that's why people don't like it. It's not bad. It's just a feeling. So we can notice that feeling and go, okay, I don't like it here. Like this feels gross. I'm tired. I'm frustrated. I want to throw in the towel. And that's where we're kind of like at the fork in the road. So you can make the decision to throw in the towel. You absolutely can say, you know what, I'm done. I quit. And so we have to realize if we go down that path, that our circumstances and our space are not going to change. So then the other path is, okay, well, maybe right now I feel gross. This is overwhelming. I don't want to be here. How can I make it a little bit better? Maybe there's this tiny area that you can just call a finish. Like, you know, like have this win where you look at it and you're like, I did a hard thing. Maybe, yes, it looks like the rest of the room is in chaos, but the top of my coffee table is clear. I don't remember the last time it's been clear, and I'm going to enjoy the fact that it's clear, and I'm calling that a finished win. So important. Absolutely. You get to choose your path.
I feel like we've been seeing a lot of people doing this exact thing.
Yes.
They're noticing, oh, I did that. I'm enjoying this space on the counter. And yes, also there's more work to be done. Like it's okay to know that there's more to go, but like they are really like embracing this idea that you're talking about. Like this is a finish. Because
it's so important. Like one of the things that I tell clients all the time, whether they're decluttering clients or they're therapy clients, is that when we have this small inner voice inside our heads that is super critical, that is not our true voice. Criticism, that internal criticism tends to come from somewhere else in our life, whether and it doesn't even mean it's malicious. It could be people with the best of intentions. It could be grandparents, caregivers, a schoolyard bully, a high school best friend, a teacher, like someone who made us feel or potentially told us that what we were doing wasn't good enough or made us feel like we weren't measuring up. And the thing is that we take those we take those voices, those external voices, we internalize it, and then we start living it out as our truth. And then we start believing that about ourselves. And that's where we fall into defeat, because we're like, yes, when we say awful things about ourselves that really aren't true, and we can change the narrative. So when we notice our wins, when we have a finish, then even just that small portion on the coffee table, we're actually changing that inner dialogue to saying, I can do that hard thing. Like I accomplished something. I had a win. So that challenges that negative inner dialect.
So I was going to ask you, like, what do you think? How can we rewrite that in our dialogue? How can we like let go of that? What do you like to do?
One of the things I suggest, especially for people who positivity does not come naturally. So I kind of like our baseline as to whether we're more on the positive side, more on the negative side can actually come down to genetics, but that doesn't mean that we're not capable of changing it. So when someone is in a good place in their head, things are feeling lighter, things are feeling easier, I tell them to write down comments or compliments or sentences that are empowering to them when they're feeling good, and keep it in a really handy place. So that way, because the thing is that when we feel defeated, it's really hard to pull those positive sentences to the forefront and to latch onto them. So we've already done our thinking in the past so that future us has access to it. And we can go read the list. You can make a list of your wins. You can make a list of when things are really hard, what do I wish someone would say to me? Or if there was someone critical in your upbringing, what is the thing I wish I heard from them? Put it on paper, save it on your phone, put it on the fridge with a magnet, somewhere where you can see it, because it's not always mind over matter. We can use outside influences to kind of help us through that hump until it starts feeling a little bit more normal.
Like it's like we have to change the input, right? So we can
Yes.
read, even if we don't believe the compliment or the win, even if we just read it, it's going to start to sink in.
Yeah. Repetition. It's the same with decluttering, right? Our decluttering muscle gets stronger when we do repetitive motions, when we create routines. It's the same thing with mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Like it could be like, I want to do a podcast on muscle memory, like on, I don't know, putting that thing away, or I don't know, and putting the thing in the dishwasher. Right? It's almost like muscle memory can be your best friend there. But I think that what you just said was that we can have that muscle memory with mindset too. It doesn't have to be a physical movement. It could be just a habit of thinking something with a repetition.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's fun.
And I think that comes again, be your own hero. Don't be your worst critic. That's not going to serve you. And we've been saying this forever. And that is, if being self-critical and being really hard on yourself actually caused you to have a perfectly decluttered space, none of us would be here.
If it worked, then we would teach it.
Yes, exactly.
The criticism is actually not working.
No, it's an energy drainer. So it's really hard to show up for your space if you are feeling this weight on your shoulders, like you are not enough.
Yeah. And it's not a fact. Like I think we forget that. We kind of think this is the truth. I am a victim. All these things are happening to me. This is terrible. This is not fair. Yeah. And then we wonder why we feel so crappy.
We're actually just making the whole journey harder on ourselves. So why do we sign up for it? Why sign up for that?
It's like climbing a mountain. It's already going to be hard enough to climb the mountain, but now you're going to strap a 20-pound backpack on your back with rocks. Exactly.
I use the same visualization, except if it was a suitcase filled with rocks, and you're just going to drag it behind you everywhere you go, everything you do in your day. I mean, why would we want to do that? No, we probably think it was kind of silly.
So we would put it down. Yeah. Right. And we might get used to it. Like we like our backpacks because they kind of feel comfortable. Like it might feel a little bit off or awkward to say, "Oh, you did such a great job. Look at the corner that you did." Like we're not used to that. That is weird. So could be hard to let go of that thing that is weighing you down. We can't understand it. If you knew that something was causing you harm, you would stop or you would get rid of it. But that's not actually the case a lot of the time.
No, because not everything that is good for you feels good. Like it's really important sometimes that we get blood work done. I don't really know anybody who's like, yay, I get to get blood work done.
Awesome.
It's going to be the stabby pain in my arm. Great. No, it doesn't feel good, but we have to go through the process sometimes to get answers about our health. So it actually is a necessary and good thing, but it may not feel good in the moment. So when we're adjusting to being less critical on ourselves, sometimes it feels very, very fake. And then it's like, well, it's uncomfortable. And as human beings, we don't like to feel uncomfortable. We like the feel good stuff, and that's where we want to stay. But there is no emotion that we experience that is a negative emotion. So even things like anger, like people will say, oh, okay, well, anger is a bad emotion. No, it's not.
Like, don't get angry. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a messenger. Our emotions and our feelings are messengers. So it's trying to tell us something. So when we get angry about something, like we can look at our space and we can get super angry about it. That's valid. I'm not going to tell you, no, don't get angry about your space. If you're angry about it, let yourself feel the anger. Now, if you're throwing plates because you're angry, then we're going to have another conversation. But
different, right?
It's like, how do we handle it? Because what we need to do is notice the anger, notice the frustration, and ask ourselves, okay, well, why is this coming to the surface for me right now? Because anger and frustration is usually the feeling that something within us or our environment, our needs are not being met. That's really what the bigger message is. So it's like, okay, why is it when I'm in my living room that I'm just getting angry and frustrated? My room has not physically done anything to me. Like if I've tripped and fallen in my living room because I've got stuff on the floor, that's not the living room's fault. That's that I made choices earlier. I didn't choose to intend to hurt myself, but I've made choices that right now the floor is storage. Okay, well, I'm probably pretty angry that I've got a twisted knee and I'm angry that the stuff's on the floor. So the anger's telling me, okay, you need to change something about this space. So then if we can figure out where the change needs to happen, and if we can take action on that, even in little bits at a time, you don't have to do it all at once, then you're going to find that the anger is going to dissipate because we're meeting the need. And the need was for safety, and the need was for clear paths, and the need was to move through the space without worrying about hurting ourselves.
Well, I love that. That's amazing. The anger is a messenger. And I think it kind of ties back in with what you said at the beginning, which was the messy middle feels really awful. But again, it is a message that something needs to change. So you just need to keep going. It doesn't mean, stop decluttering. That's not going to fix the mess. And I think we forget sometimes, and we want to get rid of the feelings, but the feelings are there to tell us something needs to change.
Yes.
So we just need to notice what's going on. And then also there's an element of patience. Yep. For sure. But then just keep going.
Yeah.
Like
and self-compassion.
What's working.
Self-compassion. We have to be compassionate about ourselves because decluttering is not a pass-fail experience. It's a journey. It's an adventure, but it's not a one and done. So we have to be compassionate. Okay, maybe I made decisions in the past about my stuff or about my space that I wish I didn't make. Okay, you can feel that. And then maybe let's make different decisions going forward. So that way you don't keep circling back to regret. We have the power to do that.
Absolutely. That's so good. That is so good. All right. So what else? What do you see what kind of traps that you see people fall into when they are struggling with their mindset? Maybe they're like, yeah, I like the idea of being a hero, but I'm still having a hard time with it.
I think a lot of it is all or nothing thinking. I think that's one of them. So that's where, especially if I have envisioned how I want my space to look, no matter how much work I'm doing, it's not matching up to my expectations. And so that's another time when people kind of want to throw in the towel, or they start getting really self-critical and just being like, well, I'm not any good at this. My space is never going to be what I want it to be. We have a habit as human beings to consistently raise the bar for ourselves. And sometimes when we get frustrated or we almost reach a goal, but not quite, we talk down to ourselves and then we just go ahead and make the bar higher. We're like, I just have to then work harder. And the problem is that if you are a constant bar raiser, it's eventually going to get so high that you have to be an Olympic level pole vaulter to clear it. And so you're setting yourself up for failure. You're not setting yourself up for wins. You can have very small goals that are easily achievable for you. And then you can build on another small goal and another small goal. But people like to think, well, if it's easy, it doesn't count. It has to be hard for it to matter.
Why do we do that? Like when you say it like that, doesn't make any sense, but it's absolutely true. If it's easy, it doesn't count. Like I have to suffer for this. Yes. Like I have to really, what I read, oh my gosh, it was so interesting. I read that there was like a comparison. I think it was Mark Spitz versus Michael Phelps. And I guess Michael Phelps is like that much faster or whatever. And one of the things that they said was that his training is a lot more scientific. They have all this data, but he's not overtrained. Like he's actually like, they ease up a little bit. Yeah. Even the Olympians. Interesting. Right. Like there is such a thing as working too hard, even if you're an Olympian.
I watched an article the other day that had a video of the US gymnast who is a specialist. So the only event that he competes in is the pommel horse. What? And it was actually his routine that got Team USA to get their gold. But because he's a specialist, he showed up. It's right before his event. What was he doing? He was napping. Like everybody is so hyped up and it's almost his time. And there's all these pictures of him having a sleep and he's just so chill. And then they called his name. He got up and he put chalk on his hands and he did the pommel horse and he nailed it. And Team USA got a gold. Like
that's amazing.
He wasn't off to the side, constantly stretching, constantly running over his routine. Like there are times and places where we do have to push ourselves a little bit more. And we know that. it's not always going to be easy, but we don't have to set up Olympic sized events for us to clear to consider winning a gold. Like that's why.
Right. Oh, that is so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's amazing. What a great example.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he knew his job, he prepared for it, and he showed up to it. And I think we can do that in our spaces. We can look at what needs to be done. We can make a plan for it without falling into the trap of over planning. I've worked with so many people who love the planning and don't follow through on the action and then wonder why there's not a lot of progress. So if you want progress, you can plan, but then you need to follow through with action.
Yeah.
So we
planning can be procrastination.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We feel good because we're like, look at this nifty little list that I have with 52 things that I'm going to do for my kitchen.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, can you just pick 3? Like, well, 3's easy. Yes. And that's the point. Because when it's easy, we get a hit of dopamine in our brains because we see the win. And so the brain loves feel-good chemicals. It just does. And that's why celebrating our wins and building up on these smaller bits of successes, it doesn't mean like if you want to work for half the day on your space, you can. But don't wait and call it a win until after you've been doing it for 2 hours. Build up on those small wins, notice them along the way, and then just keep checking in with your space and checking in with your body and going, do I want to keep going? And if you want to, you can. When you take time to notice all these wins that you're having when you're making these decisions, you're making it easier for your brain and your body to show up at a later time and just go, oh, that's right. Like I remember when we just kicked butt in the kitchen, like that was amazing. Now I want to do that in the bedroom. We can totally do that. It just makes it easier to show up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, it's going to take practice. Like this is where we're going to put in the work is on the mindset on, oh, right. It's hard for me to think about this. It's hard for me to celebrate, right? I shared that it was hard for me to celebrate my wins too. That's why I want you guys to celebrate your wins and I don't have to do mine. But also, like, I know how important it is. And I'm working on it for myself too. What is your advice for people who are like, okay, sounds great. I'm going to be the hero. Like I'm in on that. And then they get to an item, maybe it's a space, and they just feel like, oh my gosh, I just can't. Like what happens then? What do you tell them?
So I'll share a story about an experience where that was kind of similar for me. So I was working through things in my basement. So my basement is not done yet. But when I was working through it, I came to like this big plastic tote that was full of memorabilia. I didn't realize what was in the tote till I took the lid off of it. And it had cards from my grandmother. It had all of these letters. Her and I were pen pals, like even long into like email, we were pen pals and we'd write to each other and send cards and all those kinds of things. And there was a lot of memories in there that belonged to relatives that I have adored throughout my lifetime that have all passed now. And I was like, that is a really big tote of memorabilia. And at the time, I remember I sat down, I started going through it and I was like, Selena, you will be here for hours and hours and hours, reliving multiple decades of your life. I think we need to put this off for the side for right now. Let's go for some easier wins. Let's build on that a little bit. And then let's actually make a date with ourselves to go through the thing that's going to take more energy, that's going to take more time. Because the thing is that when we have emotions take energy. So there are some places and spaces that can be so overwhelming that it's paralyzing. So if it's something like sentimental, make a date. And the reason why I like making a date is that I find that sometimes it can feel a bit safer to dig into something if we feel nurtured. So maybe you go make a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and you get a blanket and you curl up on the couch and you're like, I'm just going to spend like maybe 15 minutes. And then at the end of the 15 minutes, I'm going to check in with myself. Do I want to keep going or do I want to make another date? And this is just kind of like a date to reminisce that just gives you this space to breathe through it rather than feeling like you're being forced to have to make decisions because you're on the hot seat. Those are two very different energies to hold space for sentimental items. If it's a matter of I'm in a space that feels super scary because there's just so much stuff, I don't know where to start, then go into your space. This is what I like to say, make a decision about three things. Just three things. Three is an easy number. And then when you see you can make a decision about three things, try for three more. Sometimes we have to make it that small to make it that attainable. Because when we walk into a scary space, I like to tell people that the room I'm in now was my stash and dash room. This was the room where, oh my gosh, someone's coming over. Take all the things I had never dealt with, shove it in the room. And then we were using it for storage. And things started building up that when I decided to tackle this room, people said, well, where did you start? And I was like, girlfriend, I started at the door because there was no room to get in. So I literally opened the door crack and I was like, looked on the floor and I'm like, this is where I start.
Start at the door.
I start at the door and I just decided to make myself a little pathway. And then when I made myself a little pathway, then I started branching out from the path. And there's times where I could work on it longer. Other times there was something that was a bit triggering and I slammed the door and I was like, I hate that room. And so I let myself hate the room for a bit. And then I had a conversation with myself. I was like, Selena, the room has not done anything for you. In fact, the room has been working very hard while you shove it full of things without ever giving it a second thought. So you've kind of been disrespecting the room, but it's still showing up for you. And so that was some hard conversations that I had to have with myself. I don't want to hate the room. The room's working really hard for me, but I want to feel different when I go into the room. I don't want to feel frustrated. I don't want to feel overwhelmed. So then I go, okay, three more things. That was, I just kept asking myself just three things because three things felt attainable, but three things became the whole space. Those are small wins. They add up. You don't get swallowed by overwhelm when it's three things.
And now it's your office.
Now it's my office. Yeah. Amazing. It's functional. It feels good. Right.
You got to be willing to like be patient and put in the time. Like it didn't happen overnight. So you had to be okay with that, with that time. I think we're in such a hurry because we want to get out of discomfort. We want to get out of pain.
Yes.
We're like, it's happened right now, but it's not gonna, unless you just call the dumpster. You can, but you don't want to.
Yeah. And you know what, like there's a lot of people that will joke and be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could just like set fire to it. Ask anybody who has ever been through a fire and lost everything that they own. You don't want that. You don't actually want that. What you want is peacefulness and safety, and you want an easy answer. So it's not an easy process, but we can make it easier on ourselves with the way that we approach it. And maybe sometimes that's three things at a time.
And what you just said, like if it's us wanting someone to come save us, right? And what people are saying is, if I didn't have to make the decision, it would be easier. That's what's going on there. I don't want to make these hard decisions. I don't want to put in this work, but the truth is we do want to make the decision. Because if we didn't want to, we would just call someone up and have them carted away.
Yeah. And you can do that. If you want to do that, this is the thing. We always have choices.
Yeah. And people do. And sometimes it works out great.
Yeah.
So we're not saying don't do that, but just like be honest about it. You may think that you want someone else to make all the decisions, but like if you're given that choice, like, do you really? If you don't, then either you put in the work or you stop complaining about it. Like, or you keep complaining and then you're just mad. I guess that's a possibility too, right?
Yeah.
We could do that.
I think there's value in, I like to tell people if there's an author, Julia Cameron, she wrote the book, The Artist's Way, and she has something called the morning pages. So every morning she writes stream of conscious, whatever's in her head. This is not about making it pretty. It's not meant for anybody else to read it. So I've been doing the morning pages for like over 12 years. I love the practice. And I remember back when my kids were a lot smaller, and that morning I woke up and I literally wrote for 2.5 pages how much I hated laundry. I hate laundry. Laundry's so stupid. I wish the laundry would go away. Laundry's just the most ridiculous thing. Laundry takes up too much of my time. I hate laundry. I hate laundry. I hate, like, literally, this is not meant to be pretty. It's not meant to be poetic. So I went on and on and on about how much I hate laundry. And the ideas with the morning pages is that usually by the third page, what is really simmering under the surface will come up to the top. When I was getting close to that third page, I was like, the laundry's always my responsibility. And so I was getting resentful. I'm like, nobody else in the house is helping with the laundry. And then I was like, well, why is that? And I'm like, because I've never asked for help. So I taught my oldest how to do his own laundry. I think he was 8 at the time. Started him to doing his own laundry. And then my youngest was 2, and she got to put her clothes away. Like, she loved to take the clothes out of the dryer and like throw them in the hamper. And then we'd go upstairs and I'd let her put her clothes away. Now, was it an interesting adventure every time I opened her drawers? Yes. But I was teaching her like with like. That's when you can hang up your t-shirts. And these were things as a toddler she could do. And then all of a sudden, I realized I wasn't feeling as resentful about the laundry. I didn't hate the laundry. Now, laundry is still not my favorite chore, but I was resentful because no one was sharing the load with me. And again, that's that feeling, that anger came up. Well, why was I angry? What was it trying to tell me? It's trying to tell me you need some help. You're getting resentful that nobody's helping you, yet you're not asking for help.
So you paid attention to the message and it was useful. Paid
attention to the message. Yeah.
Not a problem to be angry. Like, it's actually not, it was actually amazing for everybody, I imagine.
Yeah. And then my husband was like, oh, okay, then I'll do my own laundry. You don't worry about it. I was like, perfect. So then I wasn't alone in it. And I think a lot of times we can get resentful for things and about our space, especially if we share it with someone else. They're doing something that is really bothering us. And if we let it fester, it's going to create discourse. It's going to create discomfort. And I think we have to have some honest conversations. And we can do that kindly. Like, we can just be like, hey, this is kind of bugging me. Can we talk about it? We don't have to point fingers. We don't have to be unkind about it. But if you have a need in your home that isn't being met, or you need help, people are not mind readers. Right. Let's make it easy for people to help us. Let's tell them what the need is.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't do it kindly. And we're like, I wish I had said that better. Like, I don't think we have to wait necessarily until like we're in the perfect place. Like, I think we should give ourselves permission to, if it's going to be messy, maybe it's just messy.
Yeah.
And maybe you try your best to have the conversation or to take the action. But you don't have to, this is getting back to all or nothing thinking. You don't have to do it perfectly, whatever the heck that means. Maybe it's just like a mess.
Yeah.
And then you realize, okay, next time I'm going to do it differently. But at least you have addressed the issue. I think that's the key, because if you don't, then it's eventually going to blow up sooner or later.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything always comes out. That's the thing. Like, it always bubbles up to the surface. And so we got to figure out, is this something I want to tackle now? Is this something I'm going to tackle later? Same thing with our clutter. You can not pay attention to your clutter. You can decide that you're just going to avoid it. That is a choice.
Yep.
But we have to remember that it's a choice. And then if we get upset later on that things keep accumulating, we have to remember, well, we made a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you don't like the choice, then maybe what other choices do you have? Let's get creative about it.
Yeah. And not beat ourselves up.
No. We're just robbing ourselves of the energy that we need to deal with the stuff that we realized we were avoiding.
It's so good. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Okay. Final parting thoughts, words of wisdom.
I think we have to remember that we can do hard things. We have to remember that the journey is not always going to be sunshine and roses. And, I liken it to if you're on a road trip, and there's these deep valleys where it's dark and it's rainy and it's mucky, and you can see over the horizon, you can see the mountains, and it's sunny and it's beautiful and it's warm. When you go down into that valley and you are spinning your wheels in the mud, feel what you need to feel, but don't park your car there. Maybe you pull over, you take a breath, you have a snack, shake it off a little bit, and then you're like, I'm just going to keep pushing through. And I'm going to get over to that mountainside where things are beautiful. They're a little bit more easy. And then we also have to remember that we're on the mountaintop. We're going to go through the muck again. It's going to happen. It's going to rain. It's going to get stormy. But that's survivable. Brain likes to tell us, especially with anxiety and overwhelm, that this is not survivable, but it is. So you need to trust yourself. You need to be compassionate with yourself. And then you're going to move through those hard moments and you're going to get back to sunshine.
Don't park your car down there. That's so good. Don't set up camp.
No.
Build a little house.
Nope. You can just keep on trucking along.
So good. This is so good. All right. I think this turned out better than we could have planned. We knew it would. We knew it would.
I agree.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. You know that I love your thoughts on this. I love you. You are such an asset to our community. So we just appreciate you.
Thank you. It's always a joy. Every single time it's a joy. So I appreciate it.
I'll see you all later.
That's all we have for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review. It would really help us to get the word out. And if you'd like to continue your decluttering journey with us, find us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Decluttering Club, or on our website at thedeclutteringclub.com.